The law's not there to protect criminals. It's there to protect the innocent.
Absolutely.
I was a criminal, so the law wasn't there to benefit me. It was there to go against me. There's no one else who were in our shoes that could sit next to you and tell you this. Things ain't the way I wish they were, but it's like that in every situation, right? I'm sharing the story with you, right?
Now to the inside story of two Chicago brothers who turned on El Chapo.
Chicago's infamous drug trafficking twins, Pedro Flores and his brother Margarito.
The twins learned the drug trade at the age of 7.
Chicago is a wonderful place to become a drug distributor.
The two imported more than 30 tons of cocaine from El Chapo and sent close to $1 billion in cash from Chicago to the Sinaloa cartel.
My name is Pedro Flores. I am giving this statement freely and voluntarily. My name is Margarito Flores, Jr. I was born in Chicago, Illinois on June 12th.
Chicago, Illinois. Put the whole S on the end of that Illinois, boy.
Since approximately 1998, my twin brother, Margarito Flores, and I have been responsible for the distribution of thousands of kilograms of cocaine in Chicago, Illinois, and elsewhere. We were distributing in Chicago, Illinois, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Detroit, Michigan, Cincinnati, Ohio.
They was getting that money.
Columbus, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York City, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, Los Angeles, California, and Vancouver, British Columbia.
You should have just said everywhere.
Work collectively with a cartel known as the Federation. The Federation was headed by Joaquin Guzman Loera, who I know as El Chapo.
If you think this is just another narco story, you're wrong. It's about two boys born into a life they didn't choose. I started dealing on the streets of Queens at the age of 12. At the same time, over in Chicago, 7-year-old identical twins, Margarito Jr. Flores and Pedro Flores, were learning the family trade.
You gotta give it to Fifth, man. He out there doing this executive producer thing all the way. He's not playing no games. He's going to get the stories that he could get his hands on, and they're plentiful.
Randomly, I met these two after I had a necklace stolen in Chicago at Cabrini Green Projects. The G-Unit spinner piece, the young buck's stupid ass was dumb enough to wear to their neighborhood, to Cabrini Green Projects, where the police don't go for no reason. So after they recovered the piece and got it back to me, we developed a relationship. I'm excited to share this story with you.
In reality, that's the easiest way to, make alignments with people that you want to make alignments with. Fifth got his chain took from somebody else. If you had the power to reach out and get it, what the chain was worth is nothing to them. The relationship, on the other hand, look where we are now. I don't know how many years later.
How would you describe Pete?
I think he's one of the most intelligent persons I'll ever meet.
How would you describe Jay?
My brother's like the most intelligent person I know.
So I called a friend, Charlie Webster. She's one of the best journalists I know and a person I could rely on to do the story some justice.
50 called me up and introduced me to the brothers over Zoom because we weren't allowed to meet in person. Well, in fact, as a condition of their parole, the brothers aren't allowed to be together. And to be honest with you, even if they were, it would mean more danger for them anyway.
That's crazy. The situation at the end. You twin brothers, y'all were in a womb together. And now over all this mess, y'all can't even be in the same place. You know what I'm saying? Because if y'all in the same place, boom, both of y'all can get got. Y'all was together in the womb and shit, had to separate in the world.
Getting them in the same room to be able to do this was not just a logistical nightmare, but also carried a real risk to their lives.
How'd you get around the whole parole part, though? I can see y'all taking the risk as far as the safety situation. But how'd you get around the parole part?
It took me around 6 months, but eventually I managed to arrange a secret location for us all to talk in.
There is never a day in their lives where they won't have to look over their shoulder. There's never a time that they'll turn the ignition switch on a car and not wonder to themselves, is it going to start or is it going to blow up?
Never. And I guess we're gonna have to see the story and how bad it gets to understand, or at least try to grasp, whether they're going to feel that fear for the rest of their life, or if they feel like they're comfortable, feel like, all right, I won, I beat that. You know what I'm saying? That kind of comfort gets you killed, boy.
It's a family drama regardless of how you look at it, because of your upbringing, your brother, your dad, and then you got the significance is your relationships. And this is Surviving El Chapo, the twins who brought down the drug lord.
We're going in, y'all. Surviving El Chapo, the twins who brought down the drug lord.
What happens when you decide to turn over the most wanted man in the world? How do you get close enough to even be able to do that in the first place? Peter and Jay Flores have just spent the last 14 years in secret prison locations. They are the reason El Chapo is now in prison, and they've never spoken publicly until now.
And here's the question. Do they even need to tell their story? What good does it serve them? Check to the family. What good does it serve them to tell their story now? Damage is done. They didn't testify. They didn't took the man down. They ain't witness protection. They could quietly just hide.
We need to rewind to the beginning, to the streets of Chicago, in a neighborhood called Little Village.
Our introduction to the drug business started at 7 years old when my dad came home from prison.
Pete and Jay were born on June 12, 1981. They're the youngest of 7 children and the only twins in the family. They often speak as one. They were only really ever known as twin, in the singular.
My father ends up getting arrested and leaves her. Leaves her with 7 kids.
Margarito Flores Sr. was a well-known drug trafficker who married their mother at the age of 22, when she was just 12 years old. He was caught selling $1 million worth of heroin to an undercover agent. He asked not to be handcuffed in front of his pregnant wife, concerned she might miscarry the twins.
At that time, Mexicans don't get divorced. They just deal with it. The man is the head of the household, mm-hmm. and the woman just holds the house together. Mm-hmm. But when my dad was away, she became everything. When my dad came home, we knew we had a dad, right? We'd go visit him in prison, but we didn't know what it was like. So we thought we were getting a reward. Now we're going to be like everybody else. And our life changed.
They thought daddy was coming home and they were going to have the white picket fence. Papi was pushing weight, come home. You don't really know him like that.
Comes home. My older brothers are gang members. Mm-hmm. My mom doesn't know what a gang is. We're talking about, 80s, right? She doesn't know that my brothers became gang members. She thinks that's just something they do. He's a high-ranking member at Lion Kings at the time. And he had all this gang graffiti all over the basement where they go take pictures. And my mom would be like, oh, your friends are here. It was okay. Because she didn't understand. But when my dad came home from prison,
what
he's like, shit, these guys, he's with them.
Yeah.
He was upset with my mom, what were we doing? My mom's like, what are you talking about? And kicked my older brothers out the house. And now we had a new set of rules, which was harsh because my dad, he would say that we were being raised to be almost like women because we were being raised by women. Mm. And since day one, he said, I'm going to change them. So that came with chores and firm, just be firm. That's stuff that me and my brother weren't used to.
What is this shit?
As a kid, I hate that he came home.
Right.
They thought it was a picket fence. Real quick, they realized they hated that shit.
Us being kids, that our life got shifted, that got turned upside down, and we got to do chores.
Yeah, I tell you, my best friend growing up, right? He lived very across the street from me. He had to be on his stoop as the street light came on. So at certain days, when you go to school early part of the year, the street light would come on before it's dark outside. So we'd be playing touch football, and he'd run going to catch the ball, and he would just run past all the way back to the stoop. And we were like, what the fuck?
Went from first base to the crib.
But we hated his dad growing up. I'd be like, man, I hate that motherfucker. We'd kill him. He was looking at me like, you gonna do it? He was 3 years older than me, and he couldn't leave the block. It was a known drug location for 20 years that I was up the block to about, this is when I'm 12, seeing all of the shit you ain't supposed to be seeing. Yeah. And he didn't get a chance to see it because he had to be on the block.
But he didn't see that because he was on that porch. Think about that. It's right there. Fifth was able to get there, but because Buddy's father had an invisible elastic band around that boy's waist and brought him back to the crib and put him on that stoop, he ain't never seen it. Had nothing to do with it. That's what you need to be for your kids. keep them from seeing the shit that you had no business seeing your damn self.
He went to become a lawyer the way he was studying for law.
Wow.
In the very beginning. It prevented the things that...
Right. But you see the difference.
See that? You know what I'm saying? Mind you, 50 blew up, the music happened for him, you know what I'm saying? But every other indicator was telling you he was going the way of the street, the way that ends, the way it always ends. Buddy across the street, he was on that porch, man, became a lawyer.
The difference, you see, like you said, I was going there at 12 years old to see some shit that he wasn't seeing.
Right.
With me and my brother, the shit we were seeing was at home. Where do you go from there? My dad would tell us, like, don't be hanging around with these fucking bums all the time. You're not going to be one of these bums. You're not going to be one of these bums on the corner. And I guess we were not going to be one of those bums in the corner. And which is weird. He would say that at the same time, be like, now go get me those pounds, or go get me that bag of money, and go get me those guns, you know? I don't even think we thought marijuana was like a bad thing, right? Weird. For us, it was a plant that stunk. There's no internet. There's no people explaining to you about what drug dealing is. You know, here.
As far as they're concerned, it's the family business. Born into a business, same as if somebody born into a bakery business. Family been running a bakery for generations, same deal.
You know, my dad went from heroin to marijuana, I guess, because it was the easiest, cheapest. I think marijuana was like, I could invest, 10 grand or 5 grand and come back and make, 100 grand.
Their father began the twins' education at the age of 7 by taking them on his regular runs from Little Village, Chicago, across the Mexican border, then back again.
I remember, I think it was a vacation. And really, it was like, next thing you know, we're in the middle of a desert, and there's other cars, and they're like out in the open, and they're loading. They're compressing marijuana bales. It's a whole little factory. Like, we did everything that you could think about when it came to drug dealers, from all the way to the last drop of who was actually going to receive the marijuana back in the state. And it was translating, if it was transporting, if it was counting the money, if it was bagging up the marijuana into pounds. He took us, he showed us, we were there with him.
That old man was thorough.
Oh, it was a learning experience though. Every state, my dad was like, he knew exactly what every state did, what they cultivated, what they were known for.
Boy, he putting y'all through drug dealer college. He had y'all skipped the grade school level, y'all skipped the high school level. He took y'all straight to university, drug dealer university, for real.
I remember getting to the border. I remember feeling that anxiety intense and not understanding, but knowing that, just hearing the conversation, that having that feeling where, okay, we're next in line.
As normal as everything was and feeling like it was nothing wrong, you knew that there was a sense of doing something wrong because you had that sense of anxiety, that sense of worry and shit. Crossing that border. I don't blame you. You shorties in drug dealer college.
And the custom agent coming to the car, American citizens, where you guys headed? And separating my brother and I from my parents. Me and my brother knew exactly how to play it off. What school you guys go to? Who are your parents? Just those questions to make sure that we were American citizens, make sure they were our parents. I guess we passed the test. I remember later on, we're like, let's just pretend we're sleeping. And I think the custom agents were, most of the time, were pretty kind to be like, don't disturb the kids, they're sleeping in the back, Go ahead, go through.
Shit, they learned the grind, they learned the way. Picked up on all the idiosyncrasies of the process and made it easier on themselves every time.
So my dad, he handled it pretty well, but at times he would get nervous as well. I remember this time when we had a car full of drugs and we pull up, everyone American citizens? My dad said, yes, sir. My dad's not an American citizen. I'm like, Dad, you just told them they're American citizens. Like, I did? I remember also thinking, like, once we were across those high stakes places when we're at our worst with anxiety, that he'll stop to rest, and I'll be like, does he really have to stop to rest? Can't we just get home? When we did make it across, he would say, we're gonna need steak. We're gonna eat great steak dinner.
Yeah, understand the job was done. Spoils of war. Let's go have a good steak.
You're gonna eat good. It's so easy to remember certain things for us. We did this 50 times. He loved that marijuana business. He was like, this business would leave you money. It grows on trade. Money grows on trade. And he's like, you don't invest a lot, you don't lose a lot, you know? All that stopped on, what was it, 1993, or that year, that 92, when our home was raided by the Chicago Police Department.
The Chicago police found 200 pounds of marijuana at the family home, with a street value of over $1 million.
My older brother took the blame the first time. The second time they came, they're the ones there to take the blame for him. That's when my dad was, he went on the run.
One more trip to Mexico. This time, it was so Margarito Flores Sr. could live as a free man. They wouldn't be returning to America.
He introduced us to everyone, and we knew exactly how to speak to people. Nice to meet you. These are my sons. We would hear so many stories about how rich my dad was back in the 60s. He owned more land in the state than anyone else. He gambles $250,000 a fight. Think about that.
He wasn't playing no games. He was getting his money and spending it big.
He's introducing us to people. We're meeting people. We understand the culture. We understand the respect and how to treat people, how to talk to people, and all that stuff. And even though we looked in their views like...
You can say what you want, man. He was grooming you. He was grooming you to take over the business, to grow the business. It was already a foregone conclusion that y'all gonna sell drugs. But just off the off chance that these kids had to live a life of working a day job and this and that, he prepared them to not have to ever have to do anything. It was an insurance policy, you know what I'm saying? That the family keep going somehow. But he was grooming y'all. He had y'all in drug dealer university, hands down.
Those people started looking at us, introducing us to people. We're meeting people. We understand the culture. We understand the respect and how to treat people, how to talk to people.
Their dad sent the twins to spend their evenings and weekends doing hard labor on a chicken farm. They were the youngest workers there.
It was the hardest thing I had ever done as a kid. And I would see other kids like my age, like working, and I feel like, man, they're strong. Like they do this like nothing. I'm dying here. We weren't happy. It's a big drastic change.
They spent every chance they could on the phone to their older brother Armando, who was just 23 himself, begging to come home to Chicago.
At that time, we were like the only house, one of the only houses in the towns that had a phone.
Y'all had that dough. Of course y'all had a phone. Y'all had some luxuries going on. He was putting y'all to work to keep y'all work ethic up. Like he was training y'all top to bottom, man.
I probably gave him the side voice, like bored. And he's like, you want to come back home? If you and Pete could promise me that you're going to come and not give me a hard time and do everything I said and respect the rules, I'll buy your plane tickets so you can come back home tomorrow.
I'm surprised that the old man went for that.
My mom was, she understood. She wanted to see us happy. And my dad was just like, well, I can't go back, so like whatever.
No
like,
shit.
Whatever.
That's surprising. That's surprising. Because as much as he's shown them and put them up on by 12 years old, you would think he want to continue his project. I guess not. Maybe he wasn't grooming them. Maybe it just came natural. They're there. They're going to see it all. They're going to experience it all. I'm surprised he sent them back to the 23-year-old brother knowing that he already seen that brother's decision making, seen that he was gangbanging. And as far as the father was concerned, that gangbanging ain't lead to no money. So we'll see how this goes.
After a year of complaining, Jay and Pete were able to head back home to Chicago and live with Armando, who was still active in the Latin Kings.
My dad actually, even though he was on the run, he'd come back. Yeah, he came back with like an alias and unexpectedly show up and say, look, I got 100 pounds of marijuana. Okay.
That old man was a drug wizard, boy.
My older brother actually bought my parents' house in the neighborhood. He set some rules for us. Don't get caught for curfew. You know, the city, stay out of trouble and help out however you could. That was simple. We were not troublemakers. He got us into Catholic school. In 8th grade, they considered us to be like gang members. And I always liked to have a haircut. And they said, well, if you come to school with your haircut, we're going to make you wear a shower cap. Came to school, there's your shower cap. It was a pink one with flowers. And give it to me, I'm gonna wear it. And everybody would laugh. It was about me saying, that's what I like and that's what I'm gonna stand for. And it was a learning experience. Once I did it, it gave me a little confidence to be like, okay, being able to kind of stick up for yourself and give your...
That took a little confidence to do up front, you know what I'm saying? Having the wherewithal in your head to say, you know what, I'm going to stand on mine, run that shower cap in. You want to play these games? We'll play these games.
They thought we were not the fit. I mean, the principal knew, like, she could see who my brother was. She knew who we were. And I don't think she thought it was a good fit for the school. I remember being so upset, like, because I was thinking to my brother, like, oh, man, they're going to transfer you to school, man. Like, you should have did what you had to do. And then, comes to find out, they transferred both of us. I was like, it's like my 8th grade. Like, it was upsetting. Here we are in Catholic school where most of those kids were good kids, right? To them, we were too street. And in the school we went to, there was young hood kids there. Now, here we are in this place where we're too, I guess, bad for the good kids. But yeah, we're too good for the bad kids. We're going to be stuck in this zone, I think, many times, even to this day.
To this day, in the sense that at the end of the day, they testified. You know what I'm saying? Living in that middle zone. Too good for the bad kids, too bad for the good kids.
My older brother, he had people coming to the house all day, every day. We started meeting all kinds of people. You know, we're mingling. That's when we started meeting a lot of people from Sinaloa, for sure.
As teenagers, they were already connected to the biggest drug lord in the world, without even knowing.
1998, my older brother sold, 2 kilos on an informant, and he was arrested by the DEA. That left us in a hard situation because we depended on him. You know, he was our provider. And at that time, he was probably moving, easy, 100, 200 kilos a month. And I remember looking out the window, and I saw the Lincoln Town car come inside. But you can't see. I couldn't see inside. They just, came into the driveway, parked, where the cars come in and out. And when I turned to my left, I saw a white van. I saw a bunch of agents coming. I had just turned 17. I remember being nervous, what's at the house or whatever the case is, what's going on. They put me to the garage. What do you know about your brother? Do you know where he has his drugs? I was like, no. We know that you're always with your brother. We hope we don't find out that you're involved with his business. Me involved with his business? What are you talking about? And he was taken away. When my brother got taken away, it seemed like everyone wanted to take his spot right away. Not too long after that, maybe a couple months, was when we first got approached by his connect with the opportunity to get into business. Me and my brother were we're leery. We're we felt what we knew stuff, but cocaine sales was a whole different ballgame,
Their older brother Armando might have been an alright drug peddler, but he was not very good at managing the family's finances. The twins were left to fend for themselves, and they suddenly became responsible for years of unpaid household bills.
What you doing with all that bread? How you blow all that money? What are you doing with all that bread? At the end of the day, you got a spot. Basically, you got a platform to work out of, and you can't even take care of that. You ass backwards, bro. You're not your father.
You have the opportunity to make $30,000 in a day. It's hard when you're, 17 years old to pass that up, Your natural instinct kicks in, what I learned to do. Kicks in.
Your old man had y'all on muscle memory by the time before you was even teenagers. You was on muscle memory. So I'd understand the moment your brother's gone, the opportunity arises, I'm sure your minds can figure some shit out. Survival mode time.
My dad was selling drugs. My brothers were selling drugs. In a way, it was a family business. My mom, and we all knew what was going on in the family.
It was definitely a family business, man. Y'all was the bakery.
3 months into our drug trafficking careers, 3-4 months, we're making $1 million. To be clear, we never count the money we had spent. We count the money we had saved. When we say we made $1 million, it's because we had $1 million saved.
When your influences are the people that have done the best around you, have done it in this path, the path looks better. It looks like a route.
You got the skill set, you got the your bread, you got the people, you got all the resources. There is no work in a day job. You got what you need to survive right there. Just gotta watch your shit. That's it. Watch your step.
I started hustling when I was 12. It's because everybody that I saw from my mom they were from my mom's life. They had nicer things. You see things that were representing financial freedom. You don't see it represented in the neighborhood growing up unless they're doing good.
Yeah. Just imagine if I wasn't in that world. That would have probably been a regular person, right? I happen to be born into this world. This is my life.
All right, we got through episode 1, Little Village. Interesting story so far. Biggest takeaway from it is the old man was raising hustlers, man. Everywhere they looked, it was there. The opportunity arose to survive. They had to put that skill set to work. And that's where we're at. Hit the subscribe. See you later. Peace.